I promise I won't spoil the film for you today. I also am going to try not to be patronizing as I introduce this exciting film. Most of my teaching involves books and reading, but I find that film works very well in a number of contexts. I teach Japanese literature, and for many of my students, the books provide a great insight into Japanese thought, but film brings a new dimension, maybe a third dimension, to the literary experience. There are three things every viewer should know about this film before they see it for the first time that will help your understanding of the film. First, Japanese emperors have historically been puppets, controlled by others, often military factions throughout Japanese history. Second, the Emperor Showa was himself a publishing marine biologist before the war, and when the palace was bombed, he sought refuge in the bunker built beneath his laboratory. That's where the film begins. Point 3. After the U.S. dropped the atomic bombs on Japan, the Emperor himself announced Japan's surrender on the radio. This was an unprecedented act for an emperor to speak on the radio, and it signaled a denial of his divine status. While watching this film, a few things will enhance your enjoyment of the film. One, listen for sounds. The use of sounds, the background noises, the echoing of the sounds of everyday life. Notice also the director's use of muted color. The colors are not rich and intense. There's a kind of softening to them that's done for period effect. There's a very interesting dream sequence in the middle. Watch for that. That's both interesting and surprising. And finally, savor the long, lingering camera shots of everyday events where these events, such as eating or dressing, are turned into a ritual. What's particularly exciting about this film that works in a Japanese literary context is that the figure of the emperor has been an elusive yet powerful symbol in Japanese culture for millennia. And watching the way the emperor was used, watching how his figure was used throughout World War II, used and abused throughout World War II, and even thereafter in terms of becoming a scapegoat for all of the things that happened during World War II. It's exciting to see a movie where the director has chosen to look at the emperor as a human being, because that is at the very center of his own and Japan's identity crisis. Is the emperor truly a descendant of the sun goddess, or is the emperor just a human being? And that's the question that permeates the film, and I think it's a question that allows students of Japanese culture or students of humanity the chance to examine some very key concepts in the definition of what humanity really means. Finally, as you're watching the film, it's important to remember that this is the director Sokorov's third film where he looks at the hero who suffers a personal tragedy. His first film was on Hitler, his second was on Lenin. Throughout this film, ask yourself, what is the personal tragedy that the Emperor Showa suffers?